About this story, Kevin Mandia, CEO of Mandiant, the company the paper hired to rid its system of hackers, is joining me now live from Boston. So how was this all uncovered, Kevin?
Hala, it's good to see you. This was uncovered, usually, by the way, it's uncovered by a third party saying, hey, you've got a problem, and here's a couple of pieces of evidence to let you know you have a problem. In this case, it's my understanding that it was self-detection by the New York Times and some of the folks that help them out, I believe, at AT&T.
Okay, now, but what was your involvement in this then? Your company's involvement?
Well, at Mandiant, we respond to computer security incidents, and we've been doing so for 9 years. So when it comes to security incidents like this, Mandiant's tasked with what happened and give us a good plan on what to do about it. So I always say the jobs we do are really in two phases: what happened and what to do about it. And that's what we were hired to do, answer those two questions.
Okay, I'll ask you that question in a second. I understand I have Mark Franz, the Chief Information Officer of the New York Times, joining us live from New York. What exactly happened, Mark?
We found out that we were writing an article about the Chinese government. We asked AT&T, who manages our network, some of our network security, to essentially lower their sort of sensitivity to their instruments so that we could detect network activity. And we did see unusual activity around late October. So then we, got Mandiant involved and others involved to really figure out who was in our network, what they were after, and what we could do to stop them.
And you think the Chinese government essentially hacked into the New York Times system and gained access to what exactly?
So we know that our customer data and our employee data was always secure, and they really weren't after that. What they were really after was the sources and information by a couple of reporters in our Beijing bureau who are working on this article.
But so did they gain, because I mean that's the concern now, I imagine, is if it is indeed the case that the Chinese government was able to enter the system, get passwords of reporters, etc., were they able to gain access to lists of sources who helped out on those stories?
As far as we can tell, the data that they did take from our system didn't contain anything that would compromise the identity of any of our sources. However, they did, steal emails and email passwords on our accounts. So it is a very serious thing.
And so what's changed now at the New York Times as a result of the last several months of being able to determine this?
Right. I would say two things. One, obviously, we have hardened our network and worked with Mandiant and others to really make our network and our individual computers much more secure. And we've also worked hard to raise the awareness of our employees to make sure that they're taking responsibility for their security as well, because the primary way hackers get into your network is send somebody an email with a link to a website that downloads a malicious piece of code onto your PC. So just as we all have to be aware of physical security, we have to be aware of cybersecurity as well.
And Kevin, what surprised you most about this? I mean, would you say that the system was vulnerable? Would you say people clicked on links they shouldn't have clicked on? I mean, what was the big issue, and what's the recommendation going forward?
Well, there's really, I would say there's nothing unique about the actual cybersecurity issue that happened here. The folks that perpetrated this intrusion have done it to hundreds of other organizations, and usually they are very successful when they target an organization. So what's really unique here is the fact that the victim organization, the New York Times, has decided to share this information with the public so folks can be more aware of this problem, because it's a very pervasive problem, and the majority of victims, well over 90% of the victims that we've responded to, really don't disclose that these types of attacks occur.
I suppose
so that's the unique part.
Yeah, thank you. And I suppose my question is, look, all of us in the media world or people in companies that deal with sensitive information, should we just never include sensitive information in an email and assume that we are vulnerable?
Well, I think it's safe to assume that security breaches can be inevitable. It all comes down to, Hala, what your business practices are. And right now, it's very culturally ingrained that people share information quickest via email. So that's often where the crown jewels of the information happen to reside at organizations.
All right. And by the way, thank you to both of you. Mark, I've just gotten word that our entire conversation was blocked in China just now. So every word we've uttered in the last 6 minutes has been off the air on CNN in China. Mark, are you concerned for the
surprised.
Right, neither am I. Are you concerned for the future? I mean, do you feel confident now that you've secured the New York Times system?
I think we're over this phase of the attack, and obviously the types of things they tried to do previously, they'll have a more difficult time, but this isn't over. As long as there's computers and networks, we're going to be faced with cyber espionage threats.